Cinema, a medium that has influenced our life and society tremendously. The global cinema industry is expected to grow by $1 trillion in 2017. But why do certain films become successful and why don't certain films? Today we will attempt to analyze successful films and their ingredients and their common features to come to a conclusion. So let's get started. It's going to be a long video. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. First on our list is Citizen Kane, regarded as one of the greatest movies in world cinema and as a guidebook to many filmmakers. Here's the trailer of Citizen Kane.
I've got to make the New York Enquirer as important to New York as the gas in that light.
Welcome, gentlemen, to the Enquirer. The publisher of the Enquirer. As such, it's my duty, and I'll let you in on a little secret. It's also my pleasure to see to it that decent, hard-working people in this community aren't robbed blind by a pack of money-mad pirates. The circulation this morning was the greatest in New York.
684,132!
Right.
There's something I've got to get into this paper besides pictures and print.
Really, Charles? People will think...
What I tell them to think.
I saw Citizen Kane on television for the first time, and I began to become aware of editing and camera positions. And what I guess happened there, of course, is that what he did, Welles, was literally, he was not afraid of being self-conscious with the camera and making self-referential remarks with the camera and literally letting the audience understand, yes, the camera is looking through the floor up into the ceiling. You know, Welles did this. And he did it with such conviction and with such brilliance that you began to realize, I see the camera moves. And I began noticing camera movement because he used that wide-angle lens a great deal. And if you use a wider-angle lens and you move quick enough, you see the walls speeding past you, you know. And this is what I think Welles brought to cinema, to American cinema particularly, because up to that time, it was the seamless film, in a way. The hidden camera, the camera that you couldn't tell was there. So Welles was the one to really open up the Pandora's box of cameras flying up in the air. In a funny way, I guess, picking up where silent films left off. The odd thing about the picture, and I've seen it countless times, you know, the enigma of it is Kane itself, Kane himself. You don't know him. You can't get to know him. He's afraid of knowing himself. He's afraid of letting anything out that might be indicative of his feelings, his emotions. And he's not passive, though. He's not passive, but he's got this wall up that, now how many times I've seen the picture, I cannot get, I can't really feel for him as much as I did in the beginning. But in the beginning, when I first saw the film many times, I was feeling more for Orson Welles himself, acting in the film. I liked him personally.
Now, Citizen Kane was based on the life of William Hearst, a newspaper tycoon in the United States. It's often said that the US went to war with Spain because of his articles. Hearst is regarded as the father of yellow journalism. When Citizen Kane was being made, Hearst was alive and he was such an influential man. He tried to stop the movie from releasing multiple times. Here's an interview regarding the incident.
Is it true that when Citizen Kane was being made, that people actually tried to stop it being made? And is it true that Randolph Hearst, the newspaper tycoon, took it as being an attack on himself and tried to stop it when it was made being shown?
To the first part of your question, there was indeed a very definite effort to stop the film during shooting by those elements in the studio who were attempting to seize power, because in those days, studio politics, particularly RKO and indeed many of the big studios in Hollywood, were very much like Central American republics. And there were revolutions and counter-revolutions and every sort of palace intrigue, and there was a big effort to overthrow the then head of the studio, who was taken to be out of his mind because he'd given me this contract, which made the making of these films possible. And stopping me or proving my incompetence would have won their case. Mr. Hearst was quite a bit like Kane, although Kane isn't really founded on Hearst in particular. There are many people sat for it, so to speak. But he was like Kane in that he wouldn't have stooped to such a thing. But he had many hatchet men, editors and representatives of this great network of newspapers all over the country. And to get in good with the chief, there was a good deal of very strong action, including an effort to frame me on a criminal charge, which a policeman was good enough to tell me about. It's sensational and silly and dangerous and gangsterish as that.
Was Mr. Hearst's staff absolutely wrong? I mean, when you say that it was based on that kind of man, was he really stronger in your mind than just being that kind of man?
Well, let me ask you if you think he was libeled.
Well, I don't know him,
I see, yes. Well, do you think that the figure of Cain himself is a deeply unsympathetic figure? In
No.
the Soviet Union, for example, the film has been forbidden general distribution because this important capitalist and newspaper tycoon and anti-social and crypto-fascist figure, etc., to quote all the slogans, is too sympathetic, and for that reason it's not shown, never has been.
When you read about Citizen Kane, a lot of the things you read suggest that it was a very big social document, a massive attack on big American institutions of the day. Now, I've always seen it rather as a story, to be honest. Naturally, any story has got its implications, but I've seen it as a story. I'd like to know what your intentions were. Did you mean it as a social document or as a story?
I must confess to I must answer this in a way that I loathe. I must admit that it was intended consciously as a sort of social document, as an attack on the acquisitive society, and indeed on acquisition in general. But I didn't think that up and then try to find a story to match the idea. Of course, I think the storyteller's first duty is always to the story.
Now, Citizen Kane became successful for one primary reason, and that is curiosity. The curiosity involved in Citizen Kane drove the audience to the theaters. People tend to be more interested in visually experiencing anything, any real incident or story they've heard. So Citizen Kane was the story of a popular man like Hearst who had so many ups and downs in his life. And people were quite much interested to experience his life, and they wanted to know completely about his life. So they went to the theaters. And in the case of Citizen Kane, especially, people were very interested to also experience the history and history's connection with Hearst. Especially the U.S.-Spain War was a pulling factor for the audience because they wanted to see how Hearst influenced the U.S. to go to war with another country. And Citizen Kane lived up to its expectations and showcased Citizen Kane in an engaging way, in an entertaining way. And that made Citizen Kane a legendary film we still remember today and talk about it. So I hope that sums it up. Next on the list is Godfather, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, released in 1970. Here's the trailer for you guys.
What do you want of me? Do what I beg you to do. Now you come to me and you say, Don Corleone, give me justice. You come into my house and you ask me to murder me. I ask you for justice. That is not justice.
They want to get mixed up in a family business. You gotta get them close like this. Bada bing! You blow their brains all over your nice Ivy League suit.
Give him one message. I want Salazzo.
Now it's all out war. We go to the
Some
back.
of the other families won't sit still.
They may hand me
Salazzo. My father would want to hear this. This is business, not personal.
They shot my father.
Even the shooting of your father was business, not personal.
You know my father. Men are coming here to kill him.
I never wanted this for you. I worked my whole life. I don't apologize to take care of my family. And I refused to be a fool. Dancing on the string held by all those big shots.
It's not personal. It's strictly business.
Now, I'm going to talk about Godfather very briefly. Godfather was based on the New York Italian Mafia, and people were quite interested to know about the Mafia, its administration, its workings, and its violence, and its gun battles, and all those stuff. So that really was the pulling factor for the audience. And back when the movie was released, the Mafia was quite in use in New York especially, and across the country. and the mafia was quite powerful back then, and it was not regulated by the police as much as it is today. So people were very interested to know, how it worked and what was the mafia about, and they wanted to experience it. And Godfather was like the first mafia film in world cinema. The first best mafia film that really showed the reality of mafia. So that was this very pulling factor for Godfather and eventually leading to its success. Next up on the list, Gandhi, directed by Richard Attenborough, quite opposite of Godfather. Here's the trailer for you guys.
What the hell is going on? I don't know, sir. The agent got a telegram, and it just said he is coming. He gave the time of the train. Who the hell is he? I don't know, sir.
Some men change their times. One man changed the world for all time.
My name is Gandhi, Mohandas K. Gandhi.
Well, whoever you are, we don't want you here. I suggest you get back on that train before it leaves.
They seem to want me.
Columbia Pictures presents a Richard Attenborough film, Gandhi.
100,000 Englishmen simply cannot control 350 million Indians if those Indians refuse to cooperate.
The story of one man whose voice spoke out for millions.
To gain independence, we must prove worthy of it.
From his humble beginnings.
You're an ambitious man, Mr. Gandhi.
I hope not.
To his ultimate triumph. He was the conscience of all mankind.
Where there's injustice, I've always believed in fighting. I will fast as a penance for my part in arousing such emotions, and I will not stop until they stop.
His torment ended a nation's suffering.
I remember that all through history, the way of truth and love has always won.
His greatest weapon was peace.
In this cause, I too am prepared to die. There is no cause for which I am prepared to kill. I want to change their minds, not kill them for weaknesses we all possess.
We're required to stop it, and stop it we will.
If you take my husband, I intend to speak in his place.
I want to document coldly, rationally, what is being done here. I believe non-cooperation with evil is a duty, and that British rule of India is evil. Nevertheless, it is my duty to sentence you to 6 years in prison.
Since your arrest, the riots have hardly stopped.
If we obtain our freedom by murder and bloodshed, I want no part of it.
It went on and on into the night. Whatever moral ascendancy the West held was lost here today.
Poverty is the worst form of violence.
But do you really believe you could use non-violence against someone like Hitler?
What you cannot do is accept injustice from Hitler or anyone. You must make the injustice visible.
Gandhi.
They're calling you Mahatma, a great soul.
What if they don't arrest you? What if they don't react at all?
Something for your notebook. The function of a civil resistor is to provoke response.
Sir John.
Mr. Gandhi will find it takes a great deal more than a pinch of salt to bring down the British Empire.
My intention was to inflict a lesson that would have an impact throughout all India.
Albert Einstein said, generations to come will scarce believe that such a one as this, ever in flesh and blood, walked upon this earth. Gandhi.
Gandhiji stood against oppression, against prejudice, and in favor of tolerance and the principle that human beings of all colors and all creeds could and should live together.
Now, Gandhi inspired many people like Nelson Mandela and Dr. Martin Luther King. They were inspired by him so much that they used his techniques in their political movements, and they often mentioned Gandhi in their speeches, and they said they were inspired by Gandhi so tremendously. Now, Gandhi was this legendary figure that people, especially in the English-speaking countries like the United States, Canada, Australia, United Kingdom, they knew Gandhi so much. They saw Gandhi as this peace icon, as this legend, as this godly like man from India. So they wanted to know about his life, his story, from the start to the end. So obviously they wanted to know about it. The film succeeded in satisfying the audience's questions in an entertaining way. Thus the film became a success, critically and commercially. Next up on our list, Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's a long trailer, so relax.
The world is changed. Much that once was is lost. For none now live who remember it. History became legend. Legend became myth. And some things that should not have been forgotten were lost.
It's wonderful to see you, Gandalf! Go on, Sam. Ask Rosie for a dance. Go on.
This is the One Ring, forged by the Dark Lord Sauron. You need only this ring to cover all the lands of darkness.
What must I do?
The ring must be taken deep into Mordor and cast back into the fires of Mount Doom.
Sauron's forces are already moving.
Come on, Frodo!
They will find the ring and kill the one who carries it.
You have my sword.
And you have my bow.
And my axe.
Carry the face of us all, little one.
We're coming too! Mr. Frodo's not going anywhere without me.
They are coming.
We must turn back!
If you want him, come and claim him.
Might have made a mistake leaving the Shire, Pippin. Let's face it, Mr. Frodo. We're lost. We're not alone. Gollum. Let's just tie him up and leave him. No! Gandalf told me your life was a sad story. Smeagol. What did you call me? You know the way to Mordor.
I come back to you now, at the turn of the tide.
Who now has the strength to stand against the union of the two towers?
Our friends are out there. They cannot fight this war on their own.
A new power is rising. Its victory is at hand.
It is an army bred for a single purpose. to destroy the world of men.
Let them come.
Where is she? The woman who...
It's the ring. Frodo! It's taking hold of you.
There is nothing for you here. Only death.
There is still hope.
The enemy will never let Aragorn come to the throne of Gondor.
It is time. Give him the sword of the king.
Become who you were born to be.
Every day, Frodo moves closer to Mordor. How do we know Frodo is alive? What does your heart tell you?
Come, Master. Come to speak.
All you have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to you.
This is your test. Every path you have trod through wilderness, through war,
Whatever happens, stay with me.
has led to this road.
We cannot achieve victory through strength of arms.
Not for ourselves, but we can give Frodo a chance.
You come to it at last.
Even the smallest person can change the course of the future.
The Lord of the Rings was based on a high fantasy epic novel series written by J.R.R. Tolkien. The series was full of battles, beasts, wizards, and kings, and the series took place in an alternate world called Middle-earth. Now, the audience were quite curious to experience the high fantasy visually. Obviously, they wanted to, experience the battles, the beasts, and all those kind of fantasy things visually, and that was the pulling factor for Lord of the Rings. And the main pulling factor was the level of CGI involved in Lord of the Rings, because the CGI that was showcased in Lord of the Rings was way ahead of its time, and it was quite new for the audience, especially the battle scenes. And the battle scenes really attracted the audience into seeing the film and the high fantasy fiction it displayed. Finally, The Lord of the Rings released and reached its expectations and became a critical and a commercial success. We can see that the CGI was a very important factor for Lord of the Rings, because the CGI involved in Lord of the Rings was really the main reason for its success, because the CGI was very fresh and new. Now, to come to the conclusion, we can see a table here, and all of the films we reviewed, Citizen Kane, Godfather, Gandhi, Lord of the Rings, they all have a common reason of success, and that is curiosity. And the reason for the curiosity is also listed here. We can see that Citizen Kane aroused curiosity in the audience because it was based on reality, so it was reality based. Same for Godfather, it was reality based, and Gandhi was also reality based. The only exception is Lord of the Rings trilogy. It was based on fiction, so it was reality based fiction, and that is the main curiosity factor. We can see that all the films we reviewed succeeded because of one reason, and that is curiosity. So from our analysis of the successful films, we can come to a rational conclusion that films that generate curiosity in the audience and live up to the hype generated become immensely successful critically and commercially. And that I think is the main conclusion of our documentary, guys. I hope you liked the video. There is a part 2 coming. The list will be more, and it will be more expanded, more in depth. I hope you loved the video. Have a nice day.
I can do this all day, I can do this all night. I can do this all day, I can do this all night.
I could do this all day, I could do this all night, all month, all year, for my whole entire life. Who you know got a home but seem to live on the road, looking like a black gypsy in a